Welcome to the Retirement Guide Podcast. I'm your host, George Jameson, the owner of Capital Wealth Group, a fee-only advisory firm. Whether you're nearing retirement or already retired, join me each week as we explore the world of retirement planning and equip you with the knowledge and tools you need for a successful retirement. Welcome back to another episode of your Retirement Guide. I'm George Jameson, certified financial planner and founder of Capital Wealth Group. Last week, we talked about the number one killer of wealth, buying too big or expensive of a house, and what to do instead. Today, we're on to part 2 of the 5 wealth killers no one talks about. Drum roll, please. Expensive luxury cars, SUVs, and trucks. The price of driving a status symbol. A lot of drivers today are rolling around in $70,000 to $100,000 cars. Even though the average selling price of a new car is just under $50,000, which seems crazy. And then most married couples own 2 vehicles, which can mean $100,000 to $200,000 in depreciating assets sitting in your driveway. Unless you're earning well into the upper 6-figure range combined, that extra cost comes at a huge opportunity cost. And I'm not here to shame anyone. I enjoy my car or my truck as much as anyone else. But if you are loading up on payments and not building savings, the compounding effects will quietly erode your wealth. So let's dive in. New vehicles lose value faster than almost any other purchase. On average, new cars shed about 20% of their value in the first year, and a staggering 60% over 5 years. So a $70,000 new SUV becomes worth roughly $56,000 in 12 months, and closer to $28,000 to $30,000 over 5 years. First, let's look at the total cost of ownership. Owning a new mid-size SUV now costs roughly $13,200 per year. That's $1,100 per month, according to AAA's 2024 Your Driving Cost Study. Depreciation and finance charges are the 2 biggest line items, but fuel, insurance, maintenance, registration, and repairs all add up quickly. Now, if you buy a brand new full-size SUV or a luxury car or a full-size pickup, they cost even more, easily between $1,500 and $1,800 per month, once you factor in higher fuel, insurance, and repairs. Now, let's look at the smart way to buy a car, at least for most of us. Buying used. In the 3 to 5 year sweet spot. Because of steep early depreciation, the best value is often a 3 to 5 year old vehicle. Depreciation slows to roughly 10 to 15% per year, while reliability remains pretty high, especially for models like Toyotas and Hondas, which often retain over 60% of their value after 5 years. Now let's look at other ways to save when owning vehicles. DIY maintenance and DIY oil changes. Routine maintenance adds up fast. And oil changes are really easy to do. So if you have the time, you may want to consider doing your own oil changes. You can buy conventional oil plus a filter for about $30. If you want to use synthetic, you'll pay a little more, but you don't have to do the oil change as often. Another way to save is when your check engine light comes on, or if there's anything that you see that's wrong with your car and you want to save money, skip the dealership. Pretty much any of the auto parts stores offer free vehicle diagnostics. You can scan your codes in 2 minutes and get a printed report at no cost. That way you know if it's just a loose gas cap, bad bulbs, or something more serious, before paying hundreds of dollars to a dealer for a diagnostic fee. So here's a quick story. Last year, both of my high beam headlights went out at the same time. Normally, if just one had failed, I would have bought a replacement bulb and replaced it myself. Instead, I made an appointment with the dealership. They charged me a $150 diagnostic fee. It took forever, but they finally told me I simply needed 2 new bulbs. The dealer's repair quote was over $2,000. I said thanks, but no thanks. I then grabbed 2 bulbs for $35 each at AutoZone. You can buy LEDs for a little more. Watched a 10-minute video on YouTube and installed them myself in about 10 minutes. So I basically saved $2,000 by replacing the bulbs myself, and I'm not super handy. This is a prime example of why if anything goes wrong or you see anything wrong with your car, go get a free diagnostic at an auto parts shop first and avoid the dealership for repairs at all costs, unless, of course, it's under warranty. And now here's a quick tip about auto insurance that very few people know about. Insurance claim pitfalls and roadside assistance. On your auto insurance, you have the option to do roadside assistance. You get a flat tire, you need a battery jump, you lock your keys in the car, and so on. You think it's just a service that the insurance offers, but it can actually increase your premiums over time and even disqualify you from some insurance carriers, depending how many services you've used. Insurance companies record these services as actual claims. Of course, locking your keys in your car is not as bad as getting in an auto accident and filing a claim. But these can add up and can dramatically increase your insurance premium. So instead of using your auto insurance roadside assistance option, cancel it and get a AAA membership. AAA service calls don't leave an insurance claims footprint, so your record stays clean and your rates will stay low. Now let's discuss my personal financing rules or recommendations that I give to my clients. So it's called the 20, 3, and 8 rule. I'll explain in a second. First, I recommend paying cash for a car, since they are depreciating assets. However, I realize that can be unrealistic for many people. And here's the framework. 20 stands for 20% down payment to immediately reduce your financial balance. And then the 3 stands for 3 years or 36-month term. So then you'll own the vehicle outright more quickly. And then the 8 stands for 8% of gross income, which is the max on total transportation costs, such as loans, insurance, fuel, and maintenance. Please keep in mind this is just a framework. However, buying a new car when the average is almost $50,000, that is really tough for the average family to do. And then you have to include today's average new car rate of 6.35% APR. Let's say you decide to finance a $70,000 new vehicle over 36 months. You follow the rule and you put 20% down, which is around $14,000. That yields you a payment of roughly $2,200 per month. That's more than double my first mortgage. Now, if you decided to go out 60 months, it would be about $1,350 per month. But if you can afford it, you'll pay off the vehicle 2 full years earlier, save thousands in total interest, and free up your cash flow much sooner for savings, investments, and other expenses. And the math works the same whether we're talking about a $40,000 car, $50,000 car, and so on. Now let's look at the opportunity cost of buying new versus used. Let's compare 2 scenarios for someone who can actually afford the $2,200 per month loan payment on the $70,000 car. So the new $70,000 vehicle over a 36-month payoff is $2,200 per month, like I said. but instead you bought a 3 to 5 year old vehicle at half the price, which is $35,000. Same vehicle, just used, and you have a 36-month payoff. So here you would put 20% down on the used vehicle, which is $7,000. Then you would finance $28,000 at 6.35%, which is roughly $860 per month. So your monthly savings is roughly $1,300 per month, which is $16,000 per year. So this is financing a $70,000 car versus a $35,000 used same model car. Now keep in mind the 70 versus 35 may not be exact, but you get the picture. Now let's say you invest just 75% of that $16,000 you saved, which is roughly $12,000 annually, at a 7% average return over 30 years. You would have roughly $1.13 million in investments, all from choosing a lower price vehicle or slightly used vehicle and paying it off in 3 years. Let's say we just decided to save 50% into savings and spent the rest. You'd still end up with about $750,000. I know this doesn't pertain to everyone, but even if we changed these figures and went from a $40,000 new car to a $20,000 or $25,000 3 to 5 year old car, the same math works. Maybe it's not $1 million you saved, maybe it's $500,000. That's still a lot of money. Smart spending, especially on depreciating assets, is how you can hold on to more of your hard-earned dollars. Now for your key takeaways and action steps. So number 1, buy a used 3 to 5 year old car. Of course, it's important to research the model reliability, the maintenance cost, and so on of the car or cars you're looking at to purchase. In general, brands like Toyota and Honda often top the list when it comes to reliability and low maintenance costs. But most well-maintained vehicles can last a decade or longer. And then number 2, pay cash for the car if you can afford it, or finance it short term, which is 3 years, at the lowest possible rate, of course. I would recommend shopping credit unions and comparing those to the dealer rates. And then number 3, DIY basics. If you have the time, learn to change your oil and filters. And I highly recommend using the free OBD2 scans at auto part stores before paying for diagnostics and repairs at dealerships or other repair shops. And then number 4, review insurance and roadside assistance. Remove roadside assistance from your auto policy and instead buy a AAA membership. And then shop carriers every 1 to 2 years. And then number 5, invest the difference. Even saving and investing 75% of the monthly difference by buying a used vehicle, it can turn into life-changing sums of money over the long term. Now, next week, we'll dive into part 3 of the 5 wealth killers no one talks about. So stay tuned to find out. Be sure to share this episode with a friend or family member. Write a review, schedule a free consultation through my website at www.capitalwealthplan.com. You can also go to www.capitalwealthgroupsc.com. Thanks for listening and have a great day. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of The Retirement Guide. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and leave a 5-star review to help others discover the show. For questions, ideas, or discuss your retirement plan, reach out to me, George Jameson, at Capital Wealth Group. If you'd like a free retirement review, visit our website at capitalwealthplan.com to learn more. Thank you for listening. Stay tuned for more insightful retirement planning in future episodes. And now for the disclaimer. The information discussed in this podcast is for general explanations and education only,
It is not tax, legal, or investment advice. Before considering acting on any information heard here, first consult with your tax, legal, or investment advisor. Thank you and have a great day.